All right, folks, welcome back to the show. As I mentioned in the intro, I am very excited to welcome on for the first time Mr. Monte Scheinblum. I've been following you, Monty, for a long time, watching everything you've been doing, not only on social media, but now with the new 300-yard impact, which is a fantastic training aid that we're going to talk about here in a little bit. But first and foremost, thanks so much for coming on.
Absolutely. Love doing stuff like this.
So, obviously, those who are familiar with your work know that you're a former long drive champion. You are all over social media, Instagram, YouTube in the past, as well as other places, just preaching everything about the golf swing. Then you come into the 300-yard impact. First and foremost, what got you into the idea of doing a training aid? Because I know that you do a fair amount of coaching.
Well, here I was just seeing so many issues that led to the 300-yard training aid actually goes against what a lot of people see in my teaching, because I say impact is a result of the 148 million things that happened before, and you can't really force an impact position. So then people have said, well, Monty, doesn't this force an impact position? And I said, well, I had a theory one day that golfers react poorly to the golf ball sitting in front of them
Hmm.
because they have no club face awareness. So their club face gets out of position, and then they have to have all the requisite swing faults that everybody knows about: flipping, casting, stalling of the hips, over the top, all that good stuff that nobody wants. And I said, how can I change the perception? So I was fooling around one day during a lesson, and I'm like, you know what? This person has no idea, conceptually how to get there and what they're supposed to do. So I said, look, it, you know, this hand, to oversimplify, is going to control the club face. This is my left hand.
Right.
And I said, if all I asked you to do was get the back of your hand up against a wall in front of you, what would you do? And they made a pretty good golf swing. And I said, okay, what can I come up with that's going to help this person? So I went to, it was one guy that started it.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to Home Depot, I bought a bunch of stuff, and I made something for him. And I said, swing it, flush this pad against the wall. And he goes, okay. And he did, and he made a pretty good golf swing. And so then I had him hit a ball, and it wasn't, Adam Scott, but it was better than the swing he had just made.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I could be onto something. So when I started getting people to react to the wall instead of the golf ball, a lot of the normal incorrect movements they produced started to go away. And I said, okay, well, if I come up with something, there might be something to it. Like you said, during the winter time when people are stuck in their office, they got 5 minutes. What can they do to, give themselves a sensation of what they're supposed to do physically without a ball in front of them? So that's kind of, the impetus for it. And I just moved on from there.
It's a fantastic idea. And for those who are viewing on YouTube, you can kind of see, and I'll be sure to add some more pictures on this on the website as well, golfunfiltered.com. It's a simple design, which is always good, because I know I've, as I'm sure you have, tried many training aids where it's almost a little too complicated, where it almost deters you from wanting to use it again. That's not the case with this. This is very simple to put on, and the concept that you just described in the example, pretty easy to understand too.
Yeah, every instructor will tell you this, that there's two sides to this. Ball flight is all that matters in the end. Did you strike it solid and the ball go where you were trying to hit it? That's all that really matters. Because you see a guy like Jim Furyk, that's not a golf swing, but he was one of the great players of the generation. However, bad ball flights tend to stunt your ability to change your motor pattern to something that's better than what you're doing. And so, just working on your motor pattern. And that's why you see a lot of people with hitting bays get better over the winter because they're not concerned with, oh, I thinned that one, oh, I hooked that one, and then trying to adjust after every swing. They're just up there saying, you know what? I know if I do this movement, I'll hit the ball better. And, that's what you're trying to accomplish. It's a two-step process. When you're not happy with your swing and you're not happy with the way you hit the ball, step one is to change your motor program. And step two is to use that motor program to hit the ball better. And people tend to go backwards. They tend to say, well, if I hit that shot well, that must have been a good swing. And then I just put up a post on Instagram the other day.
Mm-hmm.
Every swing fault that every golfer has is something they made work really well one day and they stuck with it. And that's how we end up with our bad swings, is we got lucky one day, we made it work right, and we're like, well, this must be good. And then you try and recapture that, and you're just digging a grave of just bad movements.
That rings so true to me. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. You learn, as you put it, you ingrain bad motion, you ingrain bad movements, and it's awful when you just continue to do that sort of thing.
Yeah,
it's just no fun, because, like you said, you do something really well one time, you might shoot a really good score because you're able to replicate that numerous times, yet you're really not doing yourself any favors.
Right. And that is the biggest problem that golfers have. And time again on the lesson tee, excuse me, I have
okay.
A puppy here.
Oh, no, it's all right. I have a few down here too.
You talk about your dog, Dark. I have a brand new puppy that's 10 weeks old. And I'm like,
oh my.
So, we get ourselves in trouble because we equate good shot, good swing, bad shot, bad swing. And that just doesn't cut it.
Mm-hmm.
The best players in the world, they win a tournament on Sunday, and then they go on the next Thursday and they shoot a 74 and they miss the cut on Friday, and they're like, they don't go to the range and say, well, that's not working anymore. I need to fix my swing. No, but that's what amateurs do. I had a bad day. My swing must be bad. I'm going to make a big change.
Right. And with other training aids, because I do want to talk a little bit more about the goals and the different types of things you can do with 300-yard impact. Other training aids almost focus on one, maybe two swing flaws, whereas you can adapt to the training aid, but in doing so almost make other swing flaws worse, at least in my instance. That's not the case with this.
No, you better do everything pretty decent or you're going to have trouble.
And so with the 300-yard impact, a lot of it is, and folks, I know listening to this, you're not able to see it, but it's basically, it's sort of like a glove, and you're probably hearing the Velcro on the microphone here, folks, but you put it on, and as Monte mentioned earlier, you almost hit the back of your hand up against the wall.
Right.
And the rest of your body kind of adapts to that, as opposed to you adapting to the training aid itself. You're adapting to your own body moving somewhere.
Right. Any of the common swing faults that people have, if you perform that movement, you are not going to flush that pad on the wall. It's just not possible. Over the top, flip, cast, slide, hang back, all the ones, all the cliches that people talk about on the range. You do one of those movements, that pad is not getting to the wall. So by process of elimination, you're forced to do most things in the swing at least competently in order to get that done.
And one of the big things that people often struggle with. So I'm a caster. I know I am. I've played golf for a long time, but I know that's my swing flaw, and I always have to constantly work for that. And I've learned over the course of many years and many lessons, and watching some of your videos, actually, you have to move a lot of your body in sync, and it's not just a hand thing. Like, you can stop flipping at the ball, but you have to get your
Yes.
body into a certain sync to get anything out there.
See, that's the thing that this is the thing that is the biggest misconception for every golfer out there. Your swing faults are not swing faults. And people always give me a strange look when I say that. Every swing fault is a result of your brain trying to somehow get the club to the ball and send the ball generally in the direction of where the target is. And if all you did was eliminate that swing fault, you would hit it worse. You have to get at the root cause of the problem. And that's what you're trying to get done. You're trying to find the root cause of the problem. Your cast is not the problem. Just as an example, okay, using the context of the training aid. Golfers who get their upper body too far forward, if you don't cast the club, you're going to stick the club in the ground and you're not going to get it airborne. So when using the training aid, you can't lunge your upper body because your shoulder will smack the wall. So that's how it's addressing the root cause of the problem and not allowing you to make that fault because the wall's in your way.
Right. And I think it's the instituting that barrier, a physical barrier. But another, just for another sake of context, just so I understand correctly, another swing guide or a tip is to often people hear to keep your weight back a little bit and to not plunge forward is to maybe picture your golf bag behind you or a chair and you almost want to sit down a little bit. This is kind of the same thing where you've got
Correct.
this image in your mind now, and at least in my experience using the training aid, because there's snow on the ground now, I got nothing else to do. You are literally hitting it against a wall, taking a step back, and then trying to replicate that feel. Is that pretty much the goal?
That's pretty much the goal.
So in doing that over time, doing it multiple times in a row, you're implementing muscle memory. And something that you mentioned earlier, would you say that everyone has to move in a certain way to enjoy the game at any point, to get that ball going anywhere? And you had mentioned that if you were to only fix that one swing flaw, you would actually hit it worse. Would you
Yes.
say that some golfers who come to you or you've spoken with are actually quite athletic in order to make that motion work, and they only have to make a tweak or two to really become a really good golfer?
I said it's almost everybody. There, there are. It's actually backwards to what most people think. People that are more athletic tend to have work. So there's three groups of people. There's that are struggling. Okay, there's obviously good players. We'll put them aside. So people that are very athletic, they can make an ugly move at the ball and still get the club face on the ball. Okay. Then you have your people that are extremely unathletic. They better be pretty decent or they're not going to get the club to the ball.
Right.
And then there's another group of people where, they're not quite athletic enough to overcome the swing faults, but they were told to do things a certain way that's actually the opposite of what's correct. And then they really, really struggle. These are the people that get them. I mean, people of all skill levels, I use it myself, but the third group are the people that get the most out of this training aid where, all of the misinformation they've been, keep your head down. That's one of my favorites. That has been disproven time and time again throughout the bag, except for putter. That's a different animal, but pitching, wedges, driver, whenever you tell someone to keep their head down, that is a good way to make them terrible. But there are a lot of other ones that I won't get into all of them, but
Sure.
a lot of the range, I call them range cliches. When a 12 is giving a lesson to an 18, they all come out. And it's been proven with modern science that they're pretty much all either misunderstood or 180 degrees off. And that you give those kind of ideas to someone who's not super coordinated, then, that's why you have people that have played golf for 30 years and they still can't break 100.
Yeah, that's actually an interesting point too, because there's so much out there preaching to golfers. The golfer you just described, someone who's played for a long time, they just want to break that next barrier and 190 whatever, but they never improve. And in fact, if we look at the average scores, and I don't have them in front of me, of course, but I'm sure you know this, the average score for 18 holes hasn't really improved that much over time. And it's just people taking that step, I believe, and let me know your thoughts on it, to, hey, I need to understand why I'm doing something incorrectly in order for me to fix it. Is that pretty much true?
That you couldn't have said it better. So there's a couple of things about what you said there. What you said about scores not coming down, that's actually starting to change.
Oh, good.
Okay. And the other thing is there was a study done that once you've played for 3 years, you can't get any better. And that is a load of garbage. I've disproven that on the lesson tee hundreds of times. Here is the issue in both of those cases is, and I don't want to come off as the Howard Beale, in network, railing against, the machine, but
That's a hell of a reference.
right. But the information over the last 50 years has been so awful that only the most elite golfers, the most elite abilities, and the hardest workers were able to dig their way out of all of this misinformation. And it's been in the last 5 to 10 years, modern technology has been able to prove this is what good players actually do, and not the misinterpretation of looking at 2D stills from 50 years ago of Ben Hogan. So that is why things are starting to improve for everybody. But there's a secondary problem. When you get someone on the lesson tee and you say, look, they measured 150 tour players and 147 of them do move X.
Mm-hmm.
And move X is literally the exact opposite of what this person was told by his father, by his grandfather, by his teaching pro at his club. When it's 180 degrees the opposite of what he's told, changing that belief system is really difficult. But to most people, they're like, well, if 147 out of 150 tour players do it, it's probably a good idea. By the way, Monty, what did the other 3 do? Well, they did something kind of unique, but it's still not what you were told. So when 150 world-class players don't do what the party line says,
Right.
it's a tough sell sometimes.
And I think that's what I really like the most about this training aid is that your golfers are very goal oriented, whether they want to admit it or not. And what this aid did for me is it gives me the goal to accomplish. I have to figure out how to get there.
Right.
Would you say that a lot of golfers, regardless of talent level, years in the game, they fit into some category where, you know what, if you give them something to achieve, they're going to learn a little bit quicker? I've heard that before. I don't know if you agree.
Oh, I agree 100%, which is why when I teach, I don't count setup as a change, because your setup's wrong, set up correctly. Here are the 18 things that you were doing wrong, whatever. So we put setup aside. Once they're over the ball and ready to pull the trigger, I go, this is the only movement change that you're trying to create. And it might not even be an internal focus, like do this with your right elbow. It might be, in your mind, try to strike the ball so far out on the toe that you almost miss it.
Mm.
And they're like, well, what's that going to accomplish? I said, I'll show you in a second. And when they see the before and after video, they go, how did just trying to hit it off the toe make me swing better? And I said, well, your perception of what you're supposed to do isn't quite right. And so that translates to the training aid. We're taking you out of your comfort zone and getting you to accomplish a task that is different than what you've done. How we do that, sometimes is a trial and error process. But, I always say these are the two things that I kind of live by as an instructor. Number one, you got two groups of people: the ones who don't care if they get better or what their swing looks like. They just want to go outside and have a good time. I love those people. I want to go play with them.
Mhm.
But the vast majority are, I hate my swing. I know I should be much better. What can I do to fix it? And obviously, this is the group that I'm going to. So the problem is that everybody approaches how to get better in an incomplete way, in my opinion. So there's two discussions, and you have people in two different camps. Camp A is, here are the proper movements in a golf swing, and here are the positions you need to hit. This is what we need to learn. And then you have a group on the other side that says, Group A, they have no idea what they're talking about. It should be like walking. It should just be a feel, you know,
Right.
and you should just do something athletic and, you know, try to hit a draw. Just picture a draw. And then you go back to the other group. Well, feels are fleeting, and feels are what, and it's a back and forth discussion. And I watch the argument and I go, you're all wrong. You have to have some of both. You have to understand what, in fact, you're trying to accomplish. Whether it's a movement change, a ball flights change, whatever. You have to know, this is what we're trying to accomplish. Then you can push that to the side and say, what ideas can we put in? What feels, what drills, what visualizations can we do to make A happen? And if you have one without the other, it's incomplete. And I think that's why a lot of people fail, because they only take one of the two roads. And you kind of have to go in both directions and then meet in the middle on the other side.
That convergence, meeting in the middle is really interesting to me, because as you were talking, I was kind of picturing how I've learned over the years. And I have played my best golf when I did exactly what you just described, when I kept the goal in mind, because let's not forget, this is a goal-based game. You want to hit the ball to a flag that's out X amount of yards down the fairway. Would you say that in the people you've taught, that they often lose sight of that?
Oh yeah, this is another one of the things that I mean, I make this out to be a joke, but it's actually true. And it shows the backward thinking of amateurs and why they don't get better. This is a very important point on why amateurs don't get better. And everybody listening is going to say, all right, what bunch of BS is this guy going to come up with now? And then they're going to go, wait a second, that's me. When people are on the range trying to improve their swing, all they do is complain about, oh, I fatted that one. Oh, I drew that one too much. Oh, I hit that one thin. When that's not the goal when you're working on something on the range. When you're working on something on the range, the goal is to improve the way your body is moving. And then they get out to the golf course when all they should be thinking about is that solid strike on target to the pin somewhere. And all they do is go, oh, I didn't move my right elbow correct. Oh, I didn't get my hips open. Oh, I didn't keep my head down. So you can see exactly right.
Yeah, that's me.
It's backwards thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're on the range worrying about how each individual shot is hit, you're never going to improve the way your body moves. And if you're on the course worrying about how your body is moving, you're never going to get the ball flying toward the target very often. So the range is for fixing the way you move. The golf course is for hitting good shots. And if you mix and match the two, you're just spinning your wheels.
Monte Scheinblum, folks, is who we're speaking to today. You can go out to 300yardimpact.com to pick up the training aid. For $49.95, you can go and pick out just an extremely well-made, simple to understand, easy to really pick up and start using right out of the box. It's almost a no-brainer in this instance because, Monty, I'm sure you've seen, and I don't want to rip any other training aids. That's not what we do here. But in the same instance, there are some, like I said earlier, that are overly complicated. It almost turns you off to the game a little bit because it gives you that false learned helplessness, so to speak, where I'm just not going to get any better, when we both know that's not true.
One of the reasons why I created this is because I despised all of the other training aids. But again, there's now again, this is the best time to be a golfer learning how to get better.
Mm.
Some of the training aids are better. The information is better. The instructors that actually work hard to learn what is real and what is myth, you can get some of the best instruction that's ever been given right now, if you're able to find that out. And again, the last 5 years, there's been some great training aids that come out.
So, Monte, we're right up against the clock here. I know you've got a lot of active tips, lessons, a lot of videos out on Instagram. Where can listeners hear more from Monte?
Yeah, Instagram. I've got a lot of videos on YouTube, which most of them are like 3 to 4 years old to 10 years old. And what I've noticed is I haven't changed my view, but I've refined it. But Instagram, I pretty much have a new post up every day. It's at Monte Scheinblum. Pretty much a new post every day, and it's a mixed bag of, I analyze tour players' swings and say, here's what we can learn from this. I give drills, I give tips, I show how people on my lesson tee improved with X, change X. And then, like when I played in the U.S. Senior Open last year and we got to throw the football around at Notre Dame Stadium, I post stuff like that when I'm playing in a big tournament. So, it's a mixed bag of fun and information.
It's an entertaining follow. As I said, I've been following you for a long time. Just a quick, I guess, selfish thing here. I've had the chance to meet a lot of cool people doing this, and I got to say, I've been looking to talk to you for a long time, and so I'm glad that we were able to finally do it. Hopefully, once the world gets to be a little bit more normal, maybe if we cross paths one day, we can go out to the course and you can show me a thing or two.
Absolutely.
All right, Monte, thanks so much for coming on. And listeners, once again, go out to 300yardimpact.com, pick up one of these training aids. I use it myself. I've got it right here for those on YouTube. You saw me put it on. There's going to be even more information in the show notes here. Monte, let's keep in touch.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.